What's up, guys? All nerd everything. Welcome back to my channel where I discuss all things movies, TV show, wrestling, comic books related. And I recently just saw Alien Romulus with my brother last weekend, and I wanted to discuss it. Now, I wasn't really a huge Alien fan growing up. I'm actually just now getting into the franchise. I've only seen the first two because I've been told by multiple people don't go past the first two because the other ones are kind of, bad, and which is not really shocking considering that usually when a franchise goes on, it kind of falls downhill after, the second film. And maybe I'll get into that in a separate video, the best sequels ever in my opinion. And Aliens definitely tops the list. That's one of the best sci-fi horror films in my opinion. And I mean, yeah, Ripley is one of the best main protagonists in a horror film in my opinion, especially at the time considering that there were a lot of main horror girls in a lot of horror films, and which is completely different today. But she was definitely, I would definitely say she was a major influence on a lot of the horror, a lot of the main horror or scary movie actresses that we see today. Like uh, Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega. But Alien Romulus, I was very the trailers looked absolutely phenomenal, and I was expecting to be hugely entertained by this film. And don't get me wrong, I was at a certain degree. However, this film felt like deja vu. And what I mean by that is just, it felt exactly, it was hard for me to tell whether it was a remake or a sequel because in my opinion, this felt like a remake rather than a sequel because it's essentially the same story except with different actors. But the only difference is that only one character in this film is actually, you know, enjoyable on screen. David Johnson, who starred in Rye Lane, the UK rom com that came out last year. That was in my top 10 by the end of the year last year. He carried this film on his back because, no offense to all the other actors, they worked well with what they had. However, he was the only character, in my opinion, that I actually cared about and I actually liked because the other characters were written so they were just kind of boring and bland and kind of didn't really have a personality in my opinion. And Kaylee Spaney, great actress. I'm just now getting into her work. She was previously in Priscilla, which came out last year. I haven't seen that. And she was also in one of my favorite movies that came out earlier this year, which is in my top 10, and that's A24 Civil War. So far, she's absolutely crushing it right now. And as her and David Johnson have really great chemistry together as brother and sister. They play Rain and Andy, and Andy is an android, and he was created by Rain's dad and taken in, and pretty much I pretty much adopted this like human like mentality for Rain. And ever since her parents died, she essentially has no one except Andy. And Rain is convinced Rain and Andy is convinced by her friends to go go into space and steal a bunch of equipment from the abandoned spaceship. And that's when they run into a whole bunch of crazy shit. And one of my biggest gripes with this film, aside from the story and the characters. I absolutely hate the typical tropes in horror films that they always do. Like, there's a character who is pregnant, and we all know when there's a pregnant woman in a horror film, you we all know what's gonna happen. And secondly, there's always an asshole character that the audience isn't supposed to like, that who we're supposed to root for to die. And I those two tropes in horror films are overdone, and I am so sick and tired of it. The character deaths were very obvious and kind of disappointing, in my opinion, just because you could see it coming a mile away. And even the story, the only thing that saved this film, in my opinion, is the the way this film looks. The production, I absolutely love the production design, the score, the sound mixing, the cinematography, the VFX, the practical effects. And David Johnson and Kaylee Spady have really great chemistry as brother and sister. And David Johnson has the best performance in the whole film, in my opinion. And as far as this film goes as a whole, it's it's okay, but it doesn't add anything new to the story. It doesn't try to do anything different to the franchise at all. I would have preferred something where, maybe they're hired to go hunt down the alien that's on the ship, or rescue the rest of whoever the survivors are on the ship. I would have preferred something like that, where the alien is actually being hunted in the film. I think that would have been a very interesting take. However, like I said, the characters are bland, boring. The story, it feels the exact same as the first one. It feels more like a remake than a sequel. Overall, I'd probably give this film 3.5 stars. But let me know what you guys think of this film. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next review.